Welcome to Give Me 5 Minutes, WTM Africa's on-site podcast, where we capture the pulse of the show floor with dynamic conversations. I am your host, Andela Mlandu, broadcasting from our very own Soundgarden recording studio right here in the beautiful city of Cape Town. Let's dive in. Joining me today is Dimitri Syrris,
Correct.
the founder and CEO of Baotree. Dimitri, please tell us a little bit more about the work that your company does.
Thank you, Andela, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here today. So it all started around 7 years ago in Kenya, and the intention of Baotree and what we've been developing is really to help organizations who are supporting environmental or social or sustainable causes, but to utilize technology that we've developed to gather data that can be verified via a mobile phone and really synchronize it to a dashboard for really simple reporting when it comes to people communicating and measuring their sustainability and impact work. So just putting the evidence behind the stories, and I can tell you it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, building a tech company in Africa for Africa, but really with pure intentions of just can we make people tell better stories through data and have that evidence to actually communicate it, so therefore no more greenwashing.
That's incredible, and congratulations. I'd love to know from you, what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced when designing a platform that works primarily in remote conditions?
Yeah, so being mobile first, meaning on a smartphone, it's a blessing to have such a high smartphone penetration across the African continent. And these days, everyone would rather charge their cell phone, their mobile phone, rather than eat a meal in some of the more hard-to-reach places. So from that point of view, we had to lo-fi it. And so firstly, the mobile side needed offline capabilities. So our system does work fully offline and in remote operational areas. So often, because it's in the conservation community landscape, be it in the middle of the DRC or South Sudan or in Kenya or in the middle of the Kruger National Park, these areas don't necessarily have the best signal. And so one was just having that offline capability, but then to follow a framework called KISS. Keep it simple, silly. So really having the opportunity to just make it very clickable and make it very user-friendly, make it very easy for anyone who might not be tech literate to use the system. So there's no fancy bells and whistles, it's just very functional, practical, with an element of gamification, so that people can see when they are collecting data in a rural setting, they can actually see their contribution towards an environmental, social, or just general impact cause. So we've tried to make it fun as well, which also helps for our continent around like social media. But people want to see their contribution or how many likes they're getting. So there's a whole fun side to it too that helps in this context.
I love that, and I was going to ask about how inclusive it is in terms of usage and in terms of language as well. And I love that we're in the generation of technology and there's AI, but maybe talk me through the gamification part of it. What does that necessarily mean for a user?
So are you familiar with Duolingo?
Yes.
So the learning language app. We've taken inspiration from that, as well as something called the Octolus framework. And so this is something that was born out of Singularity University down in Silicon Valley, and now we're in the Savannah Valley, if we can call it that. But the principles of gamification and engagement are inspired across these social platforms and things like Duolingo. So all we've done is, based on people's contribution, they can earn and unlock badges, which immediately hits an endorphin. And through that psychological mindset, and I come from the advertising industry, so it can be used in bad ways. I'm not going to go into that today, let's keep it positive, but the whole principle is, how do we show people their contribution to give them recognition, which is a core human desire? And so it's really just simple leaderboards, so you can see how you're competing by your fellow community or colleagues in the same team. And then also through your contribution, you can unlock credits. And something that we're pushing live in about 2 weeks, which is now the middle of March, April. Got my months mixed up there, is to really help people understand that they can learn. And so we've got a learning platform where people can unlock credits to access more of the premium content. So based on their contribution, they can unlock learning. So it's really just creating these different incentive mechanisms and models to help people understand why.
And for you, how do you see data evolving, especially for the tourism sector over the next couple of years? Let's look at 5 to 10 years.
So I think data is going to be the future commodity in terms of how people are trading, because there's a supply and a demand. Supply meaning at the destination level, you've got tourism operators, you've got community projects, NPOs, foundations. all these different types of organizations gathering information, but right now that's done manual, Excel spreadsheets, pen and paper, WhatsApp groups, Word documents. So the future of data is to take these ecosystems and help them go digital, and then turn this data into a valuable commodity that then from a supply side, they can find the demand side. And the demand side is for tourism operators, for investors, for shareholders, as well as decision makers at the group level of, let's say, a multi-property destination, or it's for marketing and certification and meeting compliance regulations that are coming up in September this year. So it's really looking at where's the demand of good quality, integrity information and data, and helping the supply side, kind of the ground grassroots level, meet that demand. And so it's, I think, going through a shift, and obviously the world of large language models and generative AI, they're all cool, fancy buzzwords, but I think we all use them unknowingly, really what it means. And so I think we need to be vulnerable to know and say, I don't know what I don't know, and be more intentional around the application of what that means. So, from a Baotree point of view, it's using data in the next 5 to 10 years to help people make smarter decisions, but also unlock benefits for being a data contributor. Hope that answers that question.
Yes, you did. And then just staying with the data contributor, with AI and with technology, we have things like the Poppy Act now. If I'm a contributor, how do I ensure that my information is safe?
Yes. So actually, once upon a time, in my previous career in London, I was part of the task force that implemented the Global Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, which is the framework that POPIA, then in South Africa, was utilized. So the EU kind of always is the parent of the law, and then we adopt it. So the whole principle is around protecting personally identifiable information. And so, number one, I think that comes from an education standpoint. I mean, when you go onto a website and you say, yes, I accept my cookies, when you click that button, we are giving away so much information, which might be personally identifiable, but we don't know just by clicking that button what actually happens. So that's a whole separate conversation. But from a Baotree point of view, consent in education. It's all very cool having T's and C's and privacy policies, but the reality, no one really goes and reads that. Even you and I, as tech-savvy individuals, then you're going to where Baotree is implemented in some of the more underserved ecosystems, people aren't even aware what a privacy policy or what even T's and C's mean. So it's always giving people the mindset or the understanding that if you push a button, what is the implication or where is that information going? So it's a really learning education journey that we need to give people the agency as well as the digital stewardship to understand, if I push this button, what does that mean, or who am I giving my data to, and how do I protect myself from effectively giving away your dignity via a virtual meme. And so it's a hard one to unlock, but AI we do it unfortunately every day today. We use ChatGPT. I know some people that are using it as their therapist, giving away all their darkest secrets, but you're just training a digital model that is going to learn you, and then these bigger Copilot, Gemini, Claude, are going to become smarter around humans, and don't give away so much. Is my message to everyone out there.
And then in closing, Dimitri, bringing it back to Baotree, how do you use stories and storytelling to create real impact with your stakeholders, with your data contributors, and even with some of guests who come to the country?
So, just to break it down into 3 steps. So number 1, our clients, Grootbos, African Bush Camps, Tandatoula, Sabi Sabi, all these amazing organizations, they have to track water, waste and energy as their 3 principles of sustainability. And once they've established that, they also might do some community work. So we really help them structure their data architecture, to gather the information with the whole intention of packaging it from an output point of view. So they've now got our mobile tools, our dashboards for reporting to gather that information. But then how do they communicate it? And so we also have these sustainability storytelling kits that will help our clients actually know from a social media, from a website, from a trade show point of view, how should I be communicating sustainability in a tangible, credible, meaningful way? And so we really handhold along the entire value chain of that information gathering process to then come to the output of coming to a trade show and having the opportunity to actually communicate sustainability, but really having the evidence and the data, which often lacks, because the industry is really good at storytelling, and that's how we have sold safaris and destinations, is come have that sip at the top of Table Mountain and look at this beautiful vista, or come watch a leopard with an impala in the tree. But it's now coming to a point where just the consumer side, the traveler side, it's a lot more conscious. And so I think they're demanding a lot more proof and no more greenwashing. So we really just help people guide their data, therefore their storytelling, around a more mindful and aware audience.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for shedding light on the importance of data, gathering data, and then sharing stories. But also I love the community element of it and how you're building community across Africa who are sharing these stories and are also, being part of the ethical tourism that is very important. So thank you so much for empowering us.
Well, thank you, Andela. And the ethical piece is a prudent one. So thanks for bringing that up. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. That was Dimitri Syrris, who is the founder and CEO of Baotree, right here at WTM Africa 2026.
Some places need to be experienced. Others need to be felt. At Orange Orbit Productions, we create cinematic lodge and tourism content that captures the essence of your destination, from sweeping landscapes to intimate details and authentic moments. Through both video and photography, we don't just show your location, we tell its story. Orange Orbit Productions. Inspire the journey before it begins.